President Akufo-Addo leads a delegation to Guinea to hold talks with leadership of the military junta, all in an effort to restore the country to democratic rule. But why are experts casting doubt on the tough measures outlined by ECOWAS to resolve the political crisis?
The attitude that ECOWAS has adopted, once again, is to sit in the capital of the chair and then read out demands on a state that has been overthrown.
The time is too short for such an arrangement. The process is not that easy.
Tonight we'll be live in Guinea and hear from experts on these latest developments. And Top Story is brought to you by Gasem, the Nation Builder, and Vodafone. Together we can. My name is Ernest Menu. Tonight, President Akufo-Addo is in Guinea in his capacity as chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, leading a delegation as part of efforts to resolve the political crisis there and ultimately return the country to democratic rule. The president is there with President of Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara. Now, Joy News is learning that a meeting has been immediately scheduled with the military leadership of Guinea, led by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, largely on the fate of the deposed president, Alpha Condé. We'll be live in Guinea shortly, but these moves come just a day after the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit here in Accra. And listen to President of the Commission, Jean-Claude Bois, announcing measures adopted by the sub-regional body yesterday.
Having specific targeted sanctions to the member of the CNRDR, we are sending strong signal to all those who are attempted to have this type of idea that this thing, they will be priced to it, very high price. Because the sanctions are targeted to the members and their families.
So that is the president of the commission, Jean-Claude Bois, announcing the position of ECOWAS on these matters as they demand the immediate release of the deposed president Alpha Condé and also a period for transition and elections to be held in Guinea. We'll take you there shortly, but experts and security experts have raised concerns about these measures, the approach and also the posture of ECOWAS. First, listen to international conflict resolution analyst Colonel Festus Abuaji.
The attitude that ECOWAS has adopted, once again, is to sit in the capital of the chair and then read out demands on a state that has been overthrown. And that, we have said, is counterproductive. This meeting in Accra yesterday should have now appointed a very high-level, mission, diplomats, to go back to Guinea and engage with the leaders. Now, what went the other time, for me, I didn't even understand why the leader or the chair of our Council of State should be part of that mission to Guinea, because that leader of the Council of State is not part of the ECOWAS architecture for security.
That is Colonel Festus Abuaji, who is an international conflict resolution analyst. He'll be joining us shortly. But political analyst Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante says the timelines are not feasible.
The time is too short for such an arrangement, because if you are talking about an overthrow of a constitutional regime and you want a restoration in terms of military disengagement, the process is not that easy, because you need to get the basics right so that you don't have problems as you go along. So they should be able to take a second look at the time for disengagement and prepare the grounds very well for it to be proper and fit for Guinean society.
Political analyst there, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, and of course he is raising issues with the timelines there, saying that it is not feasible. Meanwhile, we know that the leader of the military junta, Mamadi Doumbouya, and opposition leaders as well as citizens are already pushing for a new political order. Let's listen to this.
If in 2021 we are still having to start our country again from zero, it is in large part because we, the army and the elites, have failed you for years. This error will not reoccur.
This time, within an inclusive framework, we can join forces for the foundation of a new Guinea.
Our struggles for democracy democracy is not over. It's an everyday fight. I ask the people of Guinea to mobilize and defend our young democracy. We must defend it.
Let me take you live to Guinea now. Mohamed Dauda joins us on the line with some update on what is happening in that country. Mohamed, we're grateful that you could join us here on Top Story. Now, tell us, what can you report from this meeting that we understand is underway, led by the chairman of ECOWAS, President Akufo-Addo?
Okay, thank you very much for this invitation. This morning we received the African leaders, like Alassane Ouattara from Ivory Coast and Nana Akufo-Addo from Ghana. They are in mission with for ECOWAS leaders. They came to meet the juntas. The meeting started in the hotel called Sheraton. From there, they went straight to the Nation Palace, where they are telling us that Alpha Condé is right now. And the discussion is about what? Hello?
Hello, Dauda, we can hear you.
Okay. The discussion is now about how the ECOWAS leaders said to suspend all activities, suspend Guinea from all activities of ECOWAS, and the second is how to get to free Alpha Condé from now. But what we hear from the juntas, the problem is not how to, when or how to free Alpha Condé now. They need some guarantees because, as you know, the coup d'etat is not something like election who sent you to power. So now they need some guarantees because Alpha Condé is not a small leader in Africa, even in the world. So now, from the coup d'etat, they have to get time to refound all the institutions because we have our national constitution and how they call the organ in charge of election in our country called in Guinea, CENI, Commission Electoral National Independence.
Okay.
And so many problems, corruption and nepotism, so many problems in Guinea. And they are now trying from this transition how to build the foundation, how to get Guineans to respect what is the public, what is not for you cannot be taken for your pocket. And even the political leaders, oppositioners, are now stand for that because they need a new Guinea. All the population now stand for the new Guinea. Even this morning at the airport, there were so many young men who came to tell the African leaders, ECOWAS leaders, that we want more than 6 months transition.
Are these the guarantees?
Anything that can allow us to build the foundation now for a new Guinea.
Mohamed,
so
are these the guarantees?
The leaders, Mamadi Doumbouya and the others, but from now we don't have no objective information from them.
Okay, I just wanted to know: are these the guarantees that the military junta is demanding of ECOWAS, that the system be restored to normalcy, and that these issues of corruption that they raise in various sectors of Guinea are dealt with? Is that exactly what they are asking for? Just that?
Yes, because of them, even as for them, they have no delay yet, no deadline yet for 6, 2, 1, 2, 3. No, they just want to get everybody together and to decide together. Guineans should decide by themselves. Not ECOWAS can decide for them, but they are in discussion with all the political leaders, civil society, and all the organizations. They are talking to how to go to a transition. Not election yet, not other things, but how to start building the foundation.
Okay, so what you're saying is that immediately they are not looking at having an election, having somebody to lead, a civilian, to lead the transition period. They want to deal with these issues which they think are more pressing.
Yes, after that, even this morning we are on discussion with for that because even the CNRD members we don't know yet because it's only Mamadi Doumbouya Guineans know as leader, but who The other members of the committee, nobody can tell you this is member of the committee, this is not member of the committee.
Okay.
So we are now on question to know who is behind, who is member of CNLJ before saying that are they going to vote on the government for the transition or other institutions.
Do you have a clear idea of what the posture has been on the part of the military junta in receiving ECOWAS and even as they move into this meeting?
For the moment, know that it's just a principle that ECOWAS says we suspend Guinea from all our activities. That is what they used to say. As for them now, they have heard it, but they should talk, they should meet and together decide something.
Thank you very much. That's a journalist in Guinea speaking to us there, Mohamed Dauda. Thank you very much for bringing us those updates. Let's go on to the phone lines now. We are joined by Colonel Festus Abuaje. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. So you have, said that ECOWAS needs to be on the ground. You're expecting them to be there to begin the mediation and negotiations to engage with the junta directly. Well, they are there now. We'll come to those who constitute the delegation shortly. But first of all, what do you think? What do you make of the developments as we've heard from the journalist on the ground?
My understanding of the military regime.
Colonel Abuaje, I think you'd have to position yourself. You sound a bit far away. You need to, if you're using a headphone, probably you want to speak directly through the phone. So that is Colonel Festus Abuaje there. He's speaking to us on the developments in Guinea. As we know it now, President Akufo-Addo, who is chairman of ECOWAS, is leading a delegation. In fact, they are there now. A meeting is underway with the military junta. We heard there from a journalist about how they are receiving the decisions of ECOWAS. They want Guineans to lead the process. Immediately, they are not thinking about running an election to restore the country to constitutional rule. They believe that there are certain guarantees as far as the release of Alpha Conde is concerned. They want ECOWAS to give them certain guarantees that is, the system will be restored properly. Let's pick the thoughts of Colonel Festus Abuaje on this issue. Colonel, you are making the point.
Yeah, precisely. This is about the only substantive initiative of ECOWAS. To send what we call an advanced mission composed of two heads of state, including the incumbent chairman of the economy to consult this. And my sense is that they must go and listen to the military leaders.
Well, we seem to have lost Colonel Festus Abuaje there. This is Top Story here on Joy 99.7 FM. You're live on Top Story here on Joy 99.7 FM. We're working the lines to speak to Colonel Festus Abuaje, who is an international conflict resolution expert on these issues, developments in Guinea. He has initially raised issues with the posture of ECOWAS, insisting that they need to be on the ground to engage with the military junta. We've heard from a journalist there who says that a meeting led by President Akufo-Addo is underway. And of course, they are making some demands, guarantees from ECOWAS. They they have their own position on the suspension of Guinea from the regional body, but then immediately they are not thinking about running elections to restore the country to democratic rule. But these experts have also raised issues about the timelines, the 6 months period within which ECOWAS wants the country restored to democratic rule, for elections to be held first of all and then restored to democratic rule. We'll go into that. The delegation that has been sent to Guinea, this comes just a day after the extraordinary summit held here in Accra. We are learning again from these experts that to have persons like Alhassan Ouattara, part of the delegation is not a good signal. We'll be delving into that shortly, but let's return to the phone lines. We have this time a senior mediator with the UN, Emmanuel Bombande, joining us on the line. Mr. Bombande, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Top Story. I want to start with the issue that some people are raising, and if you listen to activists on the ground in Guinea, they talk about the inclusion of Alhassan Ouattara in this mediation. The concern is that he may not be a good example. Does that have consequences?
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners. Let me say this. In mediation, your integrity and what you bring as your credibility when you are trying to bring parties to be able to have a mutual understanding from a process is as important as your capacity to allow the substantive issues to be well facilitated. And so I hear you very clearly, and what I'm saying is I will not be surprised that as he is the beneficiary of a third term, as a result of changing the Ivorian constitution, people in Guinea will feel exactly the way you have described it. And keep in mind that you are talking about a people who, despite the political interruptions and disruptions by the military, are ferociously democratic-minded as a people. And that is a history born out of their struggle with the French for self-determination, and I would not be surprised at all that this is what you are getting on the ground.
Mr. Bombande, please hold on for me. Let's speak to Colonel Festus Abuaje to get his thought on this issue as well, the inclusion of Alhassan Ouattara. Colonel Abuaje, shouldn't that be a plus given their French ties, but also because of his own experience, depending on how he makes a case at the negotiation table? Shouldn't that be an advantage to ECOWAS?
No, I think it would be a disadvantage. In fact, if I were the leader of this regime, I will see, if I understood you well, because I didn't hear my senior colleague Emmanuel talking. The inclusion of the Ivorian leader is an insult to the coup leaders, because the coup was made simply because the leader who has been overthrown re-engineered the constitution. So you don't send an ECOWAS track one team to go and talk to those who have overthrown a leader who has re-engineered a constitution and include in the team another leader who has also changed this constitution and was lucky to have gone away with it. I think the inclusion of the Ivorian leader is counterproductive. But I was saying earlier on that, as far as I'm concerned, this mission composed of two leaders is the actual substantive engagement of ECOWAS. They should have embarked on this dialogue approach before meeting to impose sanctions and so on. And it brings us to the idea that both in Africa at the continental level and sub-regional ECOWAS level, we are very inconsistent.
It doesn't matter that behind the scenes they may have been engaging. It doesn't matter.
No. The Accra meeting, which imposed the sanctions, is not an engagement. Hello?
Yes, you're on the line, sir.
Yes. And the other team that went, technically it's a track 2 team, a foreign minister plus the leader of the Council of State of this country. They are not presidential. You see, so they should have gone to dialogue with them, find out the facts on the ground, understood whether the new leaders are embarking on a roadmap, and then brought their responses to the meeting yesterday. That when we went to Conakry, this is what we gathered. But they went to Conakry to convey to the new leaders that if you don't hand over power, if you don't release the leader that you have deposed, we'll impose sanctions. Now, that is not how you negotiate yourself out of such a difficult circumstance. So I want to reiterate that ECOWAS must not be seen to be in a hurry to impose sanctions. In fact, there are technical difficulties. One, even if these military leaders are not going to rule and they appoint a new civilian administration, the constitution has been overthrown.
Yeah.
So there's no constitution in Guinea. And you can't hold elections without a constitution that provides the framework for multi-party pluralism. You see it?
Yeah.
So for ECOWAS to say that there must be elections in 6 months without reference to how the Guineans are going to craft a new constitution that creates the conditions for the elections to be held, I think ECOWAS is approaching the whole issue
wrong
in a very inconsistent manner.
And high on the agenda at this meeting, we understand, is the release of Alpha Condé. We heard from the journalist who said that the military junta is asking for guarantees. They are demanding guarantees from ECOWAS. What do you think should be the approach of ECOWAS in this meeting?
Well, my understanding is that the release of the former leader is probably the easiest of the issues. You said they're not going to ask that he must be reinstated. In fact, the communique they read yesterday, plus all the statements coming from the international community, tend to assume that there is a new reality in Guinea and that this president cannot be part of the new reality. So releasing him gives ECOWAS an opportunity to save face that at least they have managed to get the release of this this old leader.
Okay.
The guarantees could be that at this moment in time, it might not be very convenient for the leader who has been overthrown to remain in the country. So probably one of the ECOWAS countries will receive him. But if he remains, I may very well think that he's going to be under some form of house arrest or something like that.
Okay. Kindly hold the line for me, Colonel Festus Abaji. Your colleague on the other side, Emmanuel Bombande, is still with us. Mr. Bombande,
that's right.
The issue of the release of Alpha Condé, how significant is it in these dialogues and these mediations?
I think the sentiments expressed by Colonel, I totally agree with him in the sense that the behavior that Alpha Condé would put across will determine how the military then would determine his release. Keep in mind that if you were to make a comparison with other coups d'etats, the military so far have tried to bend backwards and show Alpha Condé respect. They are detaining him in circumstances that will be described as comfortable. From the stories, he has a cook available to him, he has a doctor available to him, and all the attention, therefore, to make sure that his well-being is being catered for is there. It is now how he will reciprocate. And what we are hearing is that, and that does not surprise anybody, he appears to still carry himself as he did before, which led him into the situation of a quagmire that he finds himself, which is this attitude of a doyen.
Okay.
I'm a professor, I know it all, and none of you can understand democracy as I do. And he carried that attitude with him, and even in ECOWAS summits, excuse me to say without going into the details, tried sometimes to be even condescending to other ECOWAS heads of state. I witnessed one of this in a summit when he was so disrespectful of Yahya Jammeh. Not that I'm questioning the discourse, but then he forgot that Yahya Jammeh, with whatever he represents was also a peer. And to that extent, I thought that the type of experiences to enlighten how our region is going forward democratically, he did not bring that to the fore in terms of democratic values. But he rather basically mobilized the type of support that was polarizing and divisive in his own country, and that type of leadership could not have been sustained. And one would have thought that he would change his behavior now in order that he can help even this transition to be smoother.
Very well. Colonel Abuaji, another strand of this conversation, and this is beginning to play out, especially among the political class in Guinea, is about the foreign influence there. There are rumors that the military leader there may have links with Russia, and indeed there are some beliefs that in fact the West may be using ECOWAS to pursue a certain agenda. Even as they meet, even as they're on the ground to engage, how can they navigate this with all these perceptions around?
Well, if what I read on Al Jazeera or from Al Jazeera is right, it would appear that the Russian connection came into the equation even before Alpha Conde was removed. That Alpha Conde had leaned a bit towards Russia and brought in what I would call private military company, you might call a private security company, the Wagner, which is now spreading its tentacles around several African countries, East, Central, West. So it's a matter of geopolitics that the West now want to show that they sympathize or empathize with Guinea-Conakry simply because there is a geopolitical adversary or opponent, but not because they necessarily like what is going on. And that takes us all the way back to the 90s, when the West was very loud in saying that if African countries or states don't democratize, there will be no foreign aid. That we call the ethical foreign policy. Now, what did the West mean by ethical foreign policy? Is it that democracy necessarily means any civilian administration, even if it is autocratic? You see, so the position of the West, as far as the Guinea situation is it's not defensible, because this was an autocratic leader, and the West should have, stayed or stood on their principle of democratic accountability to call the Guinean leader to order, But as I said, it's geopolitics. Now, what will happen is that the new leadership will weigh the pros and cons, and they will decide to align, associate with whomever they think at this moment in time can best serve the interest of Guinea. I don't see any problem in that.
Okay.
In fact, the geopolitical field, is too wide, too diverse, to accommodate many actors. After all, in the Sahel, for instance, how many actors don't we have there? We have them. Russia is there, China is there, France is there, USA is there, the UK is there, the EU is there. Everybody is in Africa. If Africa has become the new, call it the battleground for these neo-colonialist powers, you see, but that is a reality. I don't think that anybody can use that to prevail upon the new leaders to get rid of an ally who can be probably a balancing act for them. And I don't see any threat in that regards to the Russian presence, because it's going to help to stabilize the country. If it wasn't like that, and I stand to be corrected, why did the former leader align himself with the Russians and brought in the Wagner? You say it. So they're only continuing with the status quo that they came and met.
Well, we'll see how this plays out. I'm grateful that you could join us. That's Colonel Festus Abuaji. And Mr. Emmanuel Bombandi, I'm grateful. We ran out of time on this. But, of course, this conversation ends here on Top Story, but continues on Ghana Connect with Evans Mensah shortly. You want to stay with us. And Top Story is brought to you by Gassem, the Nation Builder, and Vodafone. Together we can.
And indeed, we are continuing this conversation from an entirely unique, interesting perspective. This is Ghana Connect. And of course, as West African leaders adopt a tough stance against the military junta in Guinea that overthrew our